Greetings, greetings of peace, love, light. It's Miracles with a Twist. August 11th. I just came back from a trip west of here, across Alligator Alley, Gulfport, and St. Petersburg. And I ran into a former course student who was asking me about the current time lessons that are seeped in reviews. And so we talked about that for a little while. And I came back here and I was having dinner with a friend who is currently and independently dedicated and studying and applying the course material to her life, and said, what's with all these reviews? And why are we going into another section? Why does it say part 2? So between those two conversations, I thought that it would be the conversation I would have here. So in 2 parts. First, the workbook is divided into 2 sections. Part 1 takes us from January all the way to where we are now in mid-August. The intention of the workbook is to get us to have a deep understanding of the workings of the ego and the subconscious mind, how it has controlled us, has controlled our emotional bodies, how it has controlled our behavior and even our thoughts. And for us to deconstruct all of that, to deconstruct the ego's hold, the ego's very strong hold on how we see the world, and to get to the lesson reviews is the opportunity for us to see how we're doing with that. Are we really willing to make those changes in how we see the world and how we see others and how we see the circumstances of our lives? So then part 2 takes us to where it says, words are of little meaning now, because now with the second section, we are applying what we've learned as far as we've come to our daily life. We're actually going into the application, walking the talk, living A Course in Miracles. And we start all over every year to, just to see how far we've come along and being able to do sort of a litmus test of self to see how am I truly understanding what this path is all about. So that's from A Course in Miracles perspective. But let's say you're not following the course. You have a spiritual path, you have a spiritual dedication, you're a spiritual warrior out there trying to do better and be better, pray harder, rise higher, love steadily, and forgive readily on a daily basis. Then review is more metaphorical, right? It's not about the actual application of lessons, but about the introspection of your own self, the self-inquiry, to be able to review and to review what's going on in our lives and to refresh our minds and to see whether or not we are willing to apply whatever it is we need to do on a daily basis to see the progress of our own spiritual dedications. Because the world is out there pulling on us. Take my hand and take me down this road of upset, this road of anger, this road of jealousy. And our task is to take our hand back and to put it here. It's not what's out there. It's what's in here that we really need to focus on, what we need to understand, what we need to observe, and what we need to feel of a transformation of self. So the review can be technical and guided, or it can be something that's done from within. And we never know where we're going to find ourselves in life. And so wherever we are, can we be there with what we've learned? Can we take our peace with us? Can we take our understanding of the bigger picture with us? It kind of reminds me, I don't know, I saw this vehicle the other day and it kind of reminded me of a Hummer. I mean, I don't know if Hummers are still even manufactured, but they were really big vehicles, big vehicles, big tires, and I don't know, they kind of looked like yellow army tanks. And there was this ad years ago when I saw this vehicle recently. It reminded me of this ad that was a Hummer ad, and the Hummer looked little because it was in this field. It was like a far off photo. So you have this little vehicle, supposedly, that's actually quite massive, but it looks little because it's out in this field. And the text said something to the effect of, sometimes you find yourself in the middle of nowhere, and sometimes in the middle of nowhere, you find yourself. And I thought about that ad about how the Hummer is really big. It's really massive. It's really strong. Just like your spirit has the capacity to be really big and really strong. But sometimes you feel little. Sometimes you feel lost out in the middle of nowhere because of a circumstance, because of a situation, because of a heartache or an upset. And so maybe you think that being out there lost in that field is badgering your sense of trust in the world. It's shaking up your faith, shaking up the ground beneath you. But that could be where you find yourself, out in the middle of nowhere, out in the middle of something that is beyond our understanding, that we can rise higher and see it from above the battlefield. A few weeks ago, I think it's been a few weeks since I've done a live broadcast, the conversation was a correlation between the Little Prince and the Course in Miracles. And so people started sending me other fairy tales to look at and to see if I can do correlations. And one of which was the Velveteen Rabbit. And the thing I loved about the quote that was sent to me was that by the time you are real, that's what the horse, the battered, shattered, old, worn out, the most loved toy of the little boy, if you know the story. He says, by the time you are real, by the time you know who you are, in our case, we would say, by the time you really have a sense of who you are and how you want to show up in the world. You may have been a little battered. He says your fur may have been all worn off and your eyes might have even popped out. But that's when you have really gotten to the place where you want to be. Because you've come out of that field, that place where you felt lost. And that's where you found yourself. So that's what review is all about. Review is about taking stock of who you are, how you are, where you are right here and now. Regardless of where you've been, regardless of where you're going. Because you may not know where you're going. You may not know where you're going to show up or how you're going to be. But in the Taoist tradition, it says the master is made in the time of not knowing. And so we try to hold on to that knowing, that's a deeper knowing, that there's a deeper peace that exists within us, even when we're lost. Remember, we're the Hummer. We're the Hummer with the big wheels, right? We've got great connection, great source within us, great capacity. So we try to hold on to that and remember that regardless of whatever else is going on. That's what review is all about. And we could do that daily. We could do it hourly. Taking an honest, rigorous, honest introspection of self-inquiry at any given time. So now the section is going into section 2. And that's where we have more practical application of some of the greatest tools that A Course in Miracles has given us. And we'll start next with forgiveness. It is an honor of the forgiven to forgive. It's from Miracle 27, I believe. And it's a reminder that we all have access to mercy. We all have access to that which will allow us to indeed rise higher. And so why not be the conduit of that in the world, for ourselves and for others? So I wanted to end with this. This is from lesson 95. It says, the Holy Spirit is not delayed in his teachings by your mistakes. He can be held back only by your unwillingness to let them go. Your mistakes don't define you. They don't condemn you. They are only your own obstacles if you don't let them go. If you allow them to be a screen through which you see your own self and forget that you're the Hummer, that you're great, that you're grand, that you're here for a mighty purpose and that you're needed. So we review what's going on, we refresh our minds, we expand our hearts, and we move forward into the world with love, for ourselves, for others, for understanding, and for knowing that no matter what is going on in this earthly experience, that everything that we're going through, everything that pulls us, everything that tries to move us in another direction, gives us the opportunity to come back to this quiet place, to the holy instant where we remember our connection with the divine. And it's not about the words. It even says words will have little meaning now. It's about what's going on inside. And some people do have trouble with the words of A Course in Miracles. You know, it has very male language. We're called sons. But you think about the energy that you put into trying to struggle with semantics. This is an opportunity to let that go. We can just let it go and be wherever it is we need to be when we make our connection. Call it Shiva, call it Buddha, call it Jesus, call it Mother Mary, call it Father Abraham, call it Allah. Peace be upon them all and peace be upon you. It's not about the words. It's about your heart. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart. And there you are. God bless you. You're a Hummer. Don't forget that.